Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopath Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and Kaigenesis, a range of supplements designed for people diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. Whether you have a low EGFR or a high creatinine, we might have a product for you. And I'm joined again today by the wonderful, the fabulous, the ever so lovely Stephanie Modavis. Stephanie is part of the Kidney Coach team. We hounded her to join us because she has such a unique gift that she brings to our community. If you haven't listened to a podcast with Stephanie before, please go and do so. But Stephanie is really the true master of living through and managing chronic kidney disease, having done 2 transplants herself, dialysis. What was it? Well, how many years total did you tell me last time, and I nearly fell off my chair, that you'd been on dialysis for?
Almost 6 total.
Okay, and she's off dialysis now, and autoimmune disease driven, and she really has had to learn to not only master and work her way through the system, but, and we were just talking about this before we hit record, but how to become her own advocate and really trust herself, because she's in her own body. And it's, I think, and we won't talk about this today, but that whole having the autonomy over your body and your journey, and being able to do that in such a beautiful, nuanced way and still feel empowered. And I think that's where Stephanie really shines. She is a living example of that. She's been able to navigate that, do that, come through the other end, feel empowered. There's no victim mentality here, taking from her journey, which has not been an easy one, and really transforming that into them wanting to help other people. And so I feel truly blessed that she's part of our team. Apart from that, she's a health coach, naturopath, yogi, all those amazing things that just add to her credentials. But I think really her main credential is she is a master in the field of all things kidney disease and navigating it. So that is where she truly shines for us. So Stephanie, thank you for joining me again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for all those kind words. I'm always super delighted to take this experience and be able to give back. I'm 25, no, almost 28 years into this journey. More than half of my life I've spent with kidney disease. And to take this and be able to get through it, but then reverse engineer it to see what would have helped me more, what I missed, and what true gems I have to give back is a luxury that a lot of people don't have. So I just feel so passionate about taking this long journey and giving back. So thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. And I love all your wisdoms, and I love your PowerPoint presentation. So we've got another amazing one today. And I love this topic. I think, and I'll let you introduce it and discuss it, but I think it's a really great topic for people, because I'll let you start the slide and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, great. Okay, so this one I've called Diagnosis Without Panic, which sounds almost impossible, but mastering the unknown. So after all of this time, I realized that I went through my illness with a lot of fear, a lot of just having no idea what was going on. I felt like I was constantly navigating chaos, a little bit like the world today. And never really felt balanced. I never really felt, I always felt like I was in survival mode. And I just kind of felt like I was lost in the woods and just doing the best that I could. And I was doing the best that I could with what I had, because I didn't know what was ahead of me. So now that I've been through it, not once, not twice, what I've realized is I should have, if I had a different model, if the system told me something a little bit different, I could have navigated my diagnosis, the panic and fear around my diagnosis, much, much differently. And it's actually almost a complete inversion of how we currently do it here in the West. So I'm excited just to introduce this way. So this is a top-down consciousness model to transform fear into evolutionary initiation. So we talk a lot about spiritual initiation and illness used as a way to help evolve our soul, or have like a restart button, refresh button, become self-aware of things we weren't self-aware of prior, to really do things slightly different with much more conscious awareness. So I see the opportunity an illness and not just the limitations and fear. And that means I'm in control and I'm not a victim to my life, which means I do feel like I have more control, which eases my nervous system, my stress, my anxiety, and I go through my life with much more balance. So that's why I'm doing this.
Love
So
it.
yeah. So it's a top-down model for living with diagnosis. And what we're going to do is we're going to, from fear of death to discovery of the gem that's inside of your condition. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You just don't know what's ahead of you. So you can only connect the dots when you're looking back. So the diagnosis forces all of the dots in your face at once, which again, that's where the panic, the overwhelm, the unknown, the stress, the anxiety, for most people. I do know a few people who've been diagnosed who tend to just go with the flow and not really get too attached. But I would say a very high percentage of people that I've met with chronic kidney disease are a little bit lost in the sauce. They don't know what's ahead. They're fearful. They have anxiety, a lot of polypharmacy stuff going on. It's just totally overwhelming. I don't think it has to be that way if we approach it different from the patient side. So here we are. We're just going to start with the scariest thing up front. This is what we need to do.
Yeah, I couldn't
Okay.
agree with you more.
So you get a diagnosis. You're going to start spinning. You're going to start feeling emotions are going to come up. Things are going to get confusing. All of this stuff is going to bubble to the surface. You're going to try to repress it or suppress it or take medication or go to a yoga class and try to relax. But if we just go to the biggest fear first, okay? When you get a diagnosis, when I got diagnosed with chronic kidney disease at 26, the first thing that ran through my head was, holy crap, I might die. Okay. First thing. So, what we usually do is suppress that because that's too scary to look at. We don't like to talk about that stuff. We don't like to look at that. So, let me just keep pushing that down. Okay. So, my model would say, your diagnosis doesn't just say something is wrong with you, it whispers you might die. I think we can all just admit that that's typically the case. Somewhere within you, usually there's like, oh my gosh, but we don't really want to look at it. The nervous system reads this as an existential threat, not just a medical event. Again, no matter how you choose to suppress it, deny it, repress it, act out about it, numb yourself out about it, let's just call a spade a spade. Okay. Especially if you're diagnosed with something like chronic kidney disease. That's really scary. It's like, oh my gosh, my organs aren't working. Like, I think that's serious, right? So the new model would start with acknowledging the fear of death first, instead of pretending it's only about lab values and treatment options. Now, as I proceed with this, you will see that I'm not asking really necessarily the doctors to change their course. I'm asking the patients to have an opposite yet complementary way to process their journey. So this is an adaptation of Carl Jung, who I like a lot. I said here, if we don't meet the fear of death consciously, it runs the whole show unconsciously. And that is very, very true. So
Yeah,
I think I mentioned before, Ernest Becker has a book called The Denial of Death, and his theory is that we all live with a low level of death anxiety and we try to repress it. But because we have this thing inside of us, it does rule a lot of our decision making and choices in life. So part of growing up is facing this. And many people say the moment you truly face death is when you can truly live. And I know it's not pretty. And I know it really scares the crap out of a lot of people, but we can consciously talk about these fears. And that if you just go to the top fear first, everything under that becomes more manageable. So the old bottom up worldview or the old script is diagnosis, fix the body, hope symptoms go away, maybe feel safe again. Everything is approached as a mechanical problem to conquer, tests, protocols, endless research. This is, as a patient, where I realized I became like the doctors. Okay. I didn't just shut down and give over my care to my doctors and just relax. I also, like many people, will they will tell you, I'm like a doctor now because I've researched and I can, let me tell you about the nephrons and let me tell you about everything. The patient becomes the doctor in a way. I don't think that's the best thing to do. I think that the patient should get educated, but they should let the doctor do the doctor stuff, the mechanical stuff, and the patient should work on this other stuff that I'm going to get into. So it's a complementary, really, then you're getting two treatment protocols that are very different, coming from two different ends, which a lot, in my opinion, for a vaster healing potential, mind, body, and soul. We're not just approaching it like as a team and it's like, I'm like a doctor like you now because I know all the information and I'm searching all this and the mechanics of the illness. It's like we're missing out on this whole other part that could help the patient truly evolve and use this illness as an initiation for healing and hope and an awakening like no other, which would just it's just would flip the whole model on its head. So the result is when we do it this way, the old way, often the patient becomes hypervigilant. Their identity fuses with their diagnosis. I know this because I've done it not once but twice. It's like I can't see the forest from the trees. Every single thing I wake up and I think kidney disease, I go to bed and I think kidney disease, and then I talk about kidney disease. Then I'm in a support group that talks about kidney disease. And then Stephanie Modavis, where the hell is she? I don't know. I'm kidney disease now.
Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, we can evolve beyond that to hold that and this. It doesn't have to be this or that. The paradigms we're moving into are the ability to hold more. It's the mechanical part of it that the doctor's doing, my kidney disease, and what is this doing in my life? What else is going on here that I can focus on? The doctors aren't focusing on your meaning and what you're like. They're not, that's not their job. So whose job is it? Is it your therapist's job? Could be, but I've had a lot of people in the CKD community. And if there's anybody watching this who says, my therapist is the best, God bless you. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I'm not saying that it doesn't help, but I've had a lot of people with chronic kidney disease say, my therapist doesn't actually know what it's like to have kidney disease. So they can only help me to a certain degree. And then I feel like I'm still in fear and stuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why the whole peer mentorship is very popular, because you're actually speaking to somebody who has that lived experience of it, not just an observational knowledge, intellectual route to the disease. So this is what happened to me. I became an excellent project manager of all of my survival, and I lost sight, I lost vision, I've lost the whole soul of this and potential. I didn't know there was potential in my kidney disease when I went through it the first time. I was naive. I was like, okay, something's wrong, like a doctor. Something's wrong. Holy crap, I got to fix it. What am I going to do? And it's very hard to stay up and above that if your worldview is the doctor's worldview. You need a different worldview to really go through this with as much resilience, which is what you'll need. Because when you got chronic kidney disease, guess what? You got it for life, no matter what. It's there. It's a part of you. You can make it better, but it's something typically that does somehow stick around at some capacity for a long time, right? So the new model, the new worldview, top down means start from being. This is for the patient, not the doctor. I think the doctors and the patients have two different and distinct roles. The patient has a role in their illness. That's what we want. Patients want to be participatory. So if you want to be participatory, don't try to be the doctor. Try to be the best patient that you can be and try to go deeper into understanding how can this actually be used for my advantage, not my depression. Okay. So it means for the patient, start from being, perspective, meaning, then strategy. Let the doctor strategize. trust your doctor or your alternative healthcare provider that they are really knowledgeable in the best strategy for you. Do some strategizing yourself, but the main part of the energy I would love to see focused on the other things. Ask first, who is the one having this diagnosis? What story is my mind telling me right now? Be able to sit with the stories that you tell yourself. I mean, here's a girl, and I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed women who have autoimmune disease, which was my root cause of my kidney disease. And autoimmune and the amount of women I've spoken to who have issues with perfectionism, issues with them not feeling confident with themselves, issues with them having pressure when they were younger to not be good enough or they're not good enough. I can't even tell you the amount of people with autoimmune who have similar characteristics. I don't even know that we know this, but there's a lot of very similar psycho-spiritual, emotional characteristics. And to me, that means something. So
Yeah,
I think
Gabriel Mate speaks about that in such great detail, doesn't he? About just especially women, because women have what 80% of the autoimmune diseases, right?
yes, yes. So the good thing is to really sit with, you have to allow the fear and the panic at some point to arise, but we don't want that to be running the entire show for the entire process because it just wreaks havoc on every level. And then we end up in polypharmacy, all sorts of things, depressed, anxious, like it just gets worse if you don't somehow let the feeling come forth, but then is there a system that I can grapple with the bigness of this and my fears, what's going on here? We need to transition from that. The medical system, I mean, I've told you this before, doing the best that they can with what they have, hopefully, is I told you, I've witnessed countless times actual psychologists and psychiatric doctors saying everybody I know that has kidney disease is on antidepressants and on like this is how it is. I'm on it too. And again, I'm not saying when I told you before, I'm always very transparent with you that I was taking some lorazepam when I started dialysis the first time because I was frantic. I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, and they're like, here, take this. And there's nothing against that, but I just think that there's a better way, you know? So, or at least in combination, in conjunction with, you know, if you want to be a participant in your life, in your story, in the movie that is your life, right? So the body is not downgraded. It's contextualized inside of consciousness, not the other way around. So a lot of patients, it's the immediate diagnosis is like, okay, there's something wrong with me.
Yes, very much so.
It's this, there's something wrong with me, and there's all sorts of feelings around there's something wrong with me from how quickly can we fix this and I can get back to my life. Like they don't even want to deal with it. They don't understand that maybe there's actually something deeper behind different conditions. Again, some people don't think deep, and that's okay. And they're just like, whatever, I have this problem, I don't even want to think about it. I'm happy with my life exactly as it is, and I don't want any of that which you're talking about, and that's fine too. But I know the degree of suffering that I've experienced with people within the chronic illness community and the people within the CKD community is profoundly high. And this model is something that can help with that. I'm not saying it's an end all be all, but it's something that can help them with it. So the core idea of this model, this is a little bit deep, but I know I'm allowed to talk deep with you. Okay.
Yes, you are.
You are not inside the diagnosis. The diagnosis is appearing inside of your awareness.
Very important distinction there. Say that again, Stephanie, for the people at the back, because I think it's so nuanced that if you miss it, you miss it. But it's so important for people to understand what you're saying here. It's a very Alan Watts kind of thing. But say it again because I think this is really important.
Okay. So you are not inside your diagnosis.
Yeah.
You're not in it. You're not a victim to your diagnosis. You're not in it. The diagnosis is appearing inside your awareness. So within that statement, it is deep, I love
Yes, I
deep. I'm a
love this
deep
statement
person.
because it's really good. It's a very good statement. I love it.
But if you can grasp in those words what I'm saying that you're not in your diagnosis to where your diagnosis is ruling you. Your awareness is bigger than your diagnosis. And this is a story, it's an event, it's a diagnosis that's occurring within your movie. But you're
Yes.
still the one directing the movie. You are the director. So remember,
Yeah.
this is a scene in your movie. It's a scene. You're not the movie screen. That help, if you can grasp that,
Yeah.
resilience, empowerment, hope, faith, will, if you realize, wait, I'm actually bigger than my diagnosis. This is a scene in my story. Maybe it's a big scene in my story, but my awareness is bigger than the diagnosis. Okay, I love this guy, Walter Russell. You know what this is? Okay, so this is what I put the top 10 of teachers know. Okay, so this is like the physicists, the spiritual gurus, people really like to nerd out. They understand reality differently. Their worldview on reality is different than, oh my gosh, I got a diagnosis, I have kidney disease, I'm gonna die, I have to focus on my this, and I have to just everything I do. Their reality, they see reality differently. And that's what I'd like to try to introduce. And it's not to disassociate from the reality of the diagnosis. This is where the medical field is like, well, hold on. If we go over there to that worldview, then you won't take me as seriously. No, we're taking you just as seriously, Mr. or Mrs. Physician, doctor. You're not going anywhere right now. You have your role, but this is something for your patients to work on. It's both. It's not one or the other, right? It's always like when you see people talk about a paradigm's dying or like, this doesn't work, tear it down. And it's like, well, hold on. There's some things that are important still in that paradigm. A whole bunch of things need to go, but there's a lot of important fundamental things there. And we take that and we merge it with some of our new ideas, and then we have something better. So it's like kind of beyond the Hegelian dialectic of like, blue versus red and black versus white and this divisive divide and conquer mentality. It's not like old medical system and new medical system. Obviously, surgery is a wonderful invention. Things within the system are wonderful. So you have to be able to open your mind to say, okay, it's this and that a little bit. And together, I may form something even better, which that in itself is hard to do for a lot of people. We're caught in the divisiveness of our emotional, wherever we're at emotionally. So that's hard. But
Yeah.
these cool teachers, um, they understood reality differently. So in their eyes, we're going to go slow with this because a lot of people are going to be like, Stephanie, I have no idea what you're talking about. Reality is fundamentally uncertain and probabilistic. Certainty is a psychological comfort, not a law. So they understand reality to be operating that way. So there's nothing certain. So this is again mastering the unknown, which life always is never certain. So it's one of those things when navigating something complex like this, if you have that worldview understanding that like, okay, I'm in this space where there's a lot of unknown, and how I am inside this space that has a lot of unknown in it can actually impact my physical, emotional, and spiritual journey with this, right? So I'll go to the next bullet point here. The observer, your consciousness, attention, and expectation participates in shaping what unfolds. So this is a fancy way of saying, guess what, everybody? The mind and the body are interconnected. We talk about this all the time. But if you take this and you just simplify it as simple as possible, if you're diagnosed with kidney disease, let's say, and you feel that fear bubble up, but you don't know, the doctor's going to run more tests, you may or may not have to go on to, like, there's so much unknown in your future. Every single thought you have in that space of the unknown is going to affect how you deal with your process. So you have to, these people understand that your mindset is actually important and you don't want to avoid the uncomfortable feelings. You want to face it and you want to understand that you do have some sort of say in how this all goes down. It might not mean that your kidney disease vanishes or everything turns perfect in your life. But when you're in this journey and you have a very fearful diagnosis, to know that you are still driving, you have this empowerment with how you navigate your journey. And you're not just a victim to this thing and I don't know what's happening. It changes everything. It really does.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
biological systems are creative, adaptive, and responsive to information, meaning, and environment, not just chemistry. I feel like we talk about this all the time, but it's so important.
Yeah, we do talk about it all the time, and I think that's that whole, that thoughts and energy and all those things are beyond our chemistry have an impact on the reality around us, right? So that's understanding that your thoughts will help create your reality, your beliefs will create your reality, your habits will create your reality, and how you can take those, and they're things that you do have control of in a sense, in helping shape your diagnosis and how that unfolds for you. So I think it's a really important point.
Yeah, it is this model, it's so different than what we're used to doing and within the traditional kind of patient care model, not so much lately, but just overall. And it's nuanced because it's not, we don't want to be charlatans and we don't want to be naive and say all of your thoughts create your reality. And if you're still sick, you must be doing something wrong. That is
Yeah.
the most naive
Yes.
way to look at this, but we cannot rule out actually how our thoughts and feelings and choices and behaviors do impact our journey.
That's very well said, because I definitely want to say that, because that's one of my big bugbears with then going into the personal development world, for want of a better term, is that, yeah, if you're still sick, then your thoughts aren't right. And it's like, that doesn't do that either, because then we're back into blaming something like our chemistry failed us and now our thoughts are failing us and we're failing ourselves because we can't think greater than our disease, and we've just, that's all our fault again. It's not useful, I don't think.
It's not useful and it's damaging. And part of this model isn't so much scientific as it is a creative process. Okay. So I'm really, what has really helped me is to let the doctors do what they're doing, develop my own sense of autonomy and trust within what feels right for me without neglecting. There was a lot of things that doctors wanted to do for me or to me that I didn't want to do. And I tried to just say, no, I'm not going to take that biopsy. I refuse. Like, I'm not going to, like, there was a lot of things that I was just downright afraid of. So you have to also learn that, we don't want to be naive about our illness and just have magical thinking. Okay. But we also need to develop our own intuition, as you said before, and understand that no matter what's going to happen throughout life, remember, we already faced our fear of death in the beginning. No one's getting out of here alive. So if we can take this process and be creative about it and allow our feelings to come, but also then realize we're bigger than the diagnosis, and to say, you know what, I'm going to take this experience that for whatever reason is happening to me, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to let it teach me, and I'm going to let it guide me, and I'm going to pull out all of the gems I possibly can of me evolving my soul and my mind and my relationships through this fear of my own mortality. And again, anybody has the choice to take a situation and see it negatively or say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can to pull out the positive in this situation. And it's not always possible. I'm not saying avoid hard feelings, but we have to learn how to do both. That's really what I think.
Yeah, no, agreed.
So I have here, your inner state is not separate from your biology. It's part of the field your cells are listening to. And I do believe that.
I
I
totally
do
agree.
believe that. Yeah. So I'm going to give it just some basic steps here. Back to number one, meeting the unknown directly, or the fear that you really have. You know, the sooner you do that, the sooner you go right to your greatest fear. And you focus on that, all of the other things won't feel as extreme. It will somehow self-organize itself in a healthier way to where at least you are bringing awareness to your experience, if that makes sense. So practice naming the unknown, whatever that fear is, instead of filling it constantly or instantly with worst case scenarios. Example questions. What do I actually know now? Instead of saying, like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm so overwhelmed. It's like a roller coaster. Do you see how I'm naming these things? So why not flip the script and sit with yourself and say, everything's chaotic, but what do I know right now? What does feel grounded and certain for me in this moment? Like, and focus on the opposite of those things that are trying to rule our mind because they're unknown, right? So, what is a pure assumption or what is future projection? Again, this has a lot to do with worrying about what ifs. What if this? What if this? What if this? What if this? Again, something that's helped me so much is to take a fear, name it, right? What am I feeling? And again, if you don't have discernment, or you don't trust your intuition, or you're just caught up in you know, media, like everything outside of you externally, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's going to be, you have to first feel your feelings to do this. Okay. So we have to go back to that. So if you can feel your feelings and you can say, you know what, I hate this because everything is so uncertain. Name that fear, or like, I don't like this because I feel unproductive. Like, just feel your feelings and try to get a core emotion. And then ask yourself the opposite. Well, how am I actually being productive considering my situation? Or what is feeling certain and grounded for me right now? Like, maybe it's like, oh, like my dog Fido just makes me feel so grounded. And like, if you ask yourself the opposite, you are like ahead of the game so much by identify the fear and then make yourself inquire about the opposite, about what you do have. Otherwise, you're just going to go on a spiral of worry and future projection and fear and anxiety. Next thing you know, you're going to be on all sorts of medications and you can't calm down, and your blood pressure and da 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 da. And that's what we want to avoid.
Have
Is
you
how
read the book Letting Go by Hawkins?
I haven't. No.
The
David?
fabulous book. David Hawkins, yeah, the guy
Yeah.
that wrote Eye the Eye and Force versus Power, and he's got a book Letting Go, and he's got some amazing exercises in there that speak specifically to this sort of stuff. That when you've got a fear, like a health thing coming up, it's about how you neutralize it, and it's about similar inquiry, but sitting with the worst case scenario. Like say I end up in a wheelchair or something like that, and it's like, is that the worst case? And it's a practice I get patients to do because we're really good at, like you say, catastrophizing the worst case, but it's a slightly different take. It's like, well, if you did, maybe you could go further. You could finally walk your dog. You could have those trips because you could actually get further, like seeing then the positive in that. And so you're basically looking at trying to neutralize the chemical reaction that comes up when you go into the catastrophizing state. So when you consider it, you're like, oh, it wouldn't be that bad. It's finding the joy in it, to the point where you can let it go, where you're like, if that happens, it happens, and that's okay. And then it's a vibration or energy inside your body that you let go of, and then we would go in the quantum field, then we may be less likely to attract it because we've released it back into that beautiful diagram you had before with Walter Russell. You release it into the vacuum, into the place, and it's a neutrally released, meaning it doesn't have energy attached to it, so it's less likely to manifest in the quantum field. And I love that exercise, and that David Hawkins book is sort of similar to what you're saying. It's a fabulous book on how to emotionally neutralize places we go when we catastrophize, and the magic he talks about what happens when we do that. It's really cool.
Yeah. I love it. I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great
So that's what
resource.
I have here. Yeah. When the mind jumps to catastrophe, gently return to this moment is information, not necessarily my final destiny. You know,
Yes.
and
Fabulous.
the reality is if you go into other philosophies that I tend to explore, I'm sure you do too, but like even just Carl Jung or living in the movie or like reality transferring, it's just like one thing that's helpful, and this is not for everybody, but one thing that's helpful is a spiritual practice. Because if
Mm.
you have some sort of a spiritual practice, you somehow relinquish your entitlement to a destiny that's unfolding with God instead of like, well, why is this happening to me? And this isn't what I wanted in my life. And instead, it goes to God, um, how can I be to best serve you? And if it's with kidney disease, then I understand. That's I've I understand the mission. I understand, you know, and it's more of a sacrificing how I thought my life should be. And it's more of a giving over to how can I best be of service because I know it's beyond what I can necessarily cultivate within my mind, and it's that really helps. It's difficult because I think we're all a little bit selfish and want what we want. But if you are a spiritually based person, you invert the process and you say, however I can serve you best is most important, not however I can look for the public or how my ego can be fulfilled or, if people like it's just all of that goes to the wayside. And it's like whatever, however you need me to be to fulfill the destiny you want me to fulfill, and I will show up for that.
Yeah, and it's such a hard one, isn't it? Because you're basically relinquishing control of how you think life should be, and it also, you have to be careful not to go into the martyrism of it too, in the extreme version where it's like I sacrifice myself for it. But there's
Right.
so many studies done to show that when you can come from service, be it service to others, be it God, the divine, whatever that is for you, when you can come from that place, there's a lot of positives and healings that happen from that. So if
Right.
you're not a highly God spiritual person, I look at what you've done, right? It's like what you bring back to the community and how you've transformed it to help other people and the message, right? You're a living example of exactly what you just spoke about. I like to
Mhm.
think that I am too, like going through all that sort of stuff makes me much better with knowing how to deal with pain and helping patients navigate these sorts of things because I have a lived experience of it. And so I'm like, okay, if that's part of why I have to experience a chronic disease, then that's great. It makes me a really compassionate practitioner. It also and I don't know about you, but how you turn up in your life day to day changes, right? Because you become grateful for smaller things. You have a lot more tolerance for other people, and like you see it. It shapes the way that you see the world. So
Absolutely. It's not a limitation at all. If you
no,
give back, if you give back and you're able to somehow alchemize your story to, even if you can't physically give back a little bit, but if you just maybe talk to some people on the phone or try to just, you know, I can't imagine if I was, before I incarnated as a human here, let's just play fantasy for a second. I can't imagine I would have said to God personally, like, oh, I just want the knowledge. I don't want to do the experience to have to relate better. I don't want to do the messy stuff.
yeah,
Just let me go to school for it. Like, that's just not the type of person I am.
no,
I would say, give me the knowledge and give me the experience so I can be of best service to someone else. I want to understand the more encompassing part of the journey. And that's for few brave souls who really kind of have that experience like you who are, you have your knowledge and you have your lived experience and they couple it together, but who better to actually learn from?
yeah. I mean, you and I joke all the time that I missed the fine print in my life contract, but I probably didn't. But you're right. It's probably like, yeah, but I know my personality type. Give me like the thing that's going to challenge me the most. Like bring it on. I'm good for this. I'm like, and I agree to that. But you're like to your point. That is the kind of personality I am. That's how I live this life. I'm sure that's how if you're playing fantasy and pre-carnation contracts, I'm sure that's exactly what I would have said too. So it's like,
Right.
darn.
Right. And we've talked about this before that a lot of, healers from the past and saints all had severe medical issues that they had to get through themselves. They had to work how to navigate deep suffering and face their own mortality. This is just a very common trait of past healers and really amazing doctors and all sorts of people that we've had is like you really can only know the nuance to help as many people as you want if you have a broad array of knowledge and experience. So,
Yeah, that's
so
what I
here's a
say
cool
to you.
little,
Sorry, keep
yeah,
going.
go ahead. No,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say, is what I say to you every time I introduce you, right? The reason I call you the master of kidney disease is because of the hours you've had in lived experience. They say to master anything, is it 7,000, 10,000 hours, maybe? 10,000 hours?
10,000 hours. Yeah, something
It was
like that.
10,000
Yeah.
hours. So I go, who's the most experienced person with kidney disease that's got the most lived hours? 6 years on dialysis. I don't know anyone else that's done that and come off it. Like for me, you are a master in that because it's lived experience. And so, yeah, to my point is that's, why I will always introduce you that way, because you have that lived master experience that no one can take that away from you. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that's just part of your lived experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's our little alchemist guy, because again, how I really help people to understand this and what I've done for myself, and probably you've done yourself, is to really take the time to go within and to really take as much control of your life as you can by at least committing to your inner process. So when you take control by doing the inner process, it really means relinquishing the external control because you're working on mastering what's within you and trusting your journey and having this relationship with the sacred, not just the mundane, and allowing it to be a story that unfolds for you that doesn't have to be all doom and gloom and I'm a sick person with CKD and I have to be a victim for the rest of my life and just play the kidney disease card for the rest of my life. If you get creative, it's possibilities are endless, even if you don't recover. I just told you before this call that, I'm 10 years into my second transplant. And at some point, even though I'm a middle-aged lady, at some point I have to face how I'm going to proceed forward if something should happen to me. I'm not playing naive. I'm playing very seriously. And I take my life seriously, and I understand that my life may be cut short because of my condition. It's very serious to me, but I'm going to have as much fun and be as creative as possible with the time I do have with my life. And if you're able to make this journey more of a creative process about inner discovery and inner healing, and let the doctors do what they need to do. Don't become a master doctor unless you plan on going back to school to get your degree. Focus on your inner development while they're focusing on your body. Because if you're working down, let's say, through a system like the spiritual system, the chakra system, the physical manifestation, expression would be the last place that the body would speak. So there's all of this upstream richness, robust inner work and realizations and awareness and deeper connection with the sacred and your life and your families and making meaning out of the movie of your life that can happen. And to die and to not do any of that work and to just take the old story of like, you got kidney disease, we got to fight this, and your whole life's about like, what a waste. What a waste of a possible evolutionary initiation for your soul and your whole life. That's how I feel. So
Agreeable.
yeah. So reframe diagnosis as an evolutionary event. That's exactly what I said again. So instead of this is, oh my God, oh my God, oh God, it's like, this is an event. This is a part of my story. This is a scene in my movie, and work with that. Be that powerful alchemist and work with that. This is a scene in my movie. It's not exactly who I am. And maybe this is going to help me evolve somehow. This is some sort of spiritual initiation, my illness. Could you imagine if we started to reframe illness as, not just something to war against and fight, but something that's actually has been sacredly planned for your own personal evolutionary initiation? This is your spiritual awakening.
So
Do you see how it just changes the whole
yeah,
energy?
it's exactly what I was about to say. When you say it like that, it's a very different take on what you have to go through, isn't it? It's almost like, I don't want to say it's a, what's the word I was looking for? A kind of like a gift, but it is, in some ways, it's like this, and responsibility is the wrong word too, but it's this thing that if you can do it and you can alchemize it, it becomes, the whole energy behind it totally transmutes, right? It becomes this honor, this thing. It's the hero's journey. It's the scar given by Voldemort. It's the whatever that is for you that you
Yeah.
have to go through, if you can see it that way.
Right. It's the sorcerer's stone. It's the whole thing. It's like God's like, again, this is creative. This is storytelling. And in a way, what how I've done best with my journey is to understand the objective reality of it, but then get really creative with my subjective story and really evolve both ends of those spectrums. Right? Whereas usually we're just kind of looking at it very objectively, and nobody's like creating art out of their illness. I'm asking people to create art out of their illness.
Yeah, I haven't heard it put like that before, but it's, yeah, it's, you can get super creative with it, and it totally changes the energy of it if you sit in there, like the
Totally.
energy shifts.
This can be, you can be considered Stephanie Modavis, a CKD patient who's a life artist. And the way she handles the traumatizing, sad, whatever story of her chronic kidney disease, and like the way she handles it is she is a creative master about how this actually helps evolve her soul in her movie of life. Just totally cool.
Yeah, totally different energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So instead of this is the end, hold, this is an evolutionary pressure point in my life. Ask if this diagnosis is a teacher. What class am I enrolled in? Truth, boundaries, self-love, purpose, spiritual maturation. You can't see the gem in real time. You become fully aware of it by looking back. But inner self-study gives you the recipe via your intuition, symbology, and a deepening trust in your inner voice. Does this make sense? Is this so far out there?
No, I love it. Like I say, the whole, I hadn't sort of thought about it like that, but the whole, I mean, it's why people love the drama and the hero stories that Joseph Campbell Smith, the hero's journey book and the archetype.
Every
And
movie.
every movie that is successful follows this hero's journey. And it's why we love those stories. It's why we love those sort of things. And it's, when you look at it this way, everybody's got the opportunity. And it doesn't have to be illness. There'll be lots of different things that can stimulate, but illness is one way for you to do this of yourself and get creative with it. And it's a great way to do it. And it really does completely shift the energy when we go, okay, it might not be that my parents were murdered by a evil wizard. I keep going preferring Harry Potter. You can see one of a Harry Potter. Just because I'm speaking about it, but you can transform whatever you've been through, and illness is one of those things. And illness feels a little bit more in some ways personal because it's happening inside your own body, especially in autoimmune disease where you're at war with yourself. But I feel like it's such an opportunity to do the hero's journey and to have your own story. And I love the way that you've rephrased that, because it's very powerful in a way to rewrite the narrative. And like you said, become an artist and creative and more creative about how we think about things. So I love it. It's not out there at all. It's just
Creativity. Yeah. And the cool thing is that creativity can come from within you. It doesn't have to be a physical labor when you don't have energy. This story, this isn't part of your inner life. We as Americans especially are very externalized. It's all about everything out there, and we're a victim to everything happening to us, and the government and the Epstein files, all the drama that we love to be addicted to. Why not turn your attention to the movie of your own life and make it a great one, and take whatever drama you're going through and make gold out of it? Okay. The gift is never obvious at the beginning. That doesn't mean it's not there.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So there's always something, there's gold, there's alchemical gold in your journey. It's just a matter of, are you going to excavate it? Are you going to do what it takes to go within yourself to find the gem of the situation? Or are you going to be a victim of it and just go that route, you know? Look it's Neo.
I love
Okay.
me.
I had to throw Neo in. Okay, so I have here step three. Was going in some sort of step-by-step process. From conquering to collaborating. You and I have talked about this a ton. The traditional medical model does want to fight the disease. That's their job. But I don't want patients to be in war mode when they need to preserve energy. I'd rather them be in creative healing mode. So, old mode, I must conquer, fix, eradicate this. New mode, I will collaborate with my body, my medical team, and my deeper intelligence. This includes taking action, tests and treatments, and staying curious. What is my body trying to reorganize around?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's great. Got
Yeah.
nothing more to add to that.
Yeah. I've talked about this all the time. From war metaphor, fight disease, to partnership metaphor, co-create healing conditions. It's subtle, but it's big. Step four, top down to mundane. Okay, so I'm a super nerd. Like I have a big cross on my arm, and everybody's like, this really gets a lot of attention. They're like, first they're like, wow, you have a huge cross on your arm. I'm like, yes, I do. And then they're like, oh, it's like they'll see it this way. And then sometimes I'm sitting like this, they're like, oh my gosh, she's got an upside down cross on her arm. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like everybody has their own story that they make up about things. I am just obsessed with the symbology of the cross. So the symbology of the cross to me means you've got a horizontal axis and a vertical axis. It's like math. Okay. So you got the horizontal axis as the mundane, earth, our linear process of life, the linear process of the medical establishment treating a disease. It's a linear process. I mean, they may have to go around about, but it's typically a linear process. When we bring the sacred to the picture, the vertical axis, the spiritual journey, the inner journey, when we bring the sacred to the mundane, which is the cross to me, life becomes exceptionally rich and fulfilling and meaningful. Your disease becomes meaningful. It becomes a gift. This is what I'd like to try to shift the consciousness towards. So the process would be the top would be the ontology. I am awareness, not the diagnosis. Then number two is the existential. Fear of death is welcome as a part of me being human. Number three, meaning. This event is part of my soul curriculum, even if I don't like it. Number four, identity. I'm a participant, not a victim in how I meet this. Number five, emotion. I regulate my nervous system so decisions aren't made from panic. Number six, behavior. I choose treatment paths that align with my deepest values. And number seven would be the mundane, which is a part of the cross. It's just as important, but it's the labs, the meds, the foods, the calendars, the second opinions, et cetera, et cetera. So usually we're doing it from seven up. The majority of people are like seven, maybe seven, six, maybe five. But look at all this stuff we leave out that could really, really, really help our journey. Do you see what I mean?
Totally. And yeah, you're right. We go backwards.
We go backwards. Now, let the my philosophy is let's hit this from two ends. Let the doctors really focus on seven, right? Like, okay, here's going to be your treatment. This is the diet. Like, you have to also be a participant in that. But the mundane is kind of like the normal Western medical model is number seven. That's like it. Okay. So why can't doctors continue to do what they're doing and patients start at one? And then maybe we can meet in the middle and have a complete process and have a true awakening about our illness and what it's done in our life. That's my proposal.
I like your.
Oh, okay. So Neil has to take the red pill now, right? He's like, oh, now I see all this. I can't choose to stay asleep, right? So the invitation, becoming a master of the unknown. You can't eliminate uncertainty. You can become masterful at navigating it. That's true. You can become very creative at navigating complexity. And I don't really think it's a luxury anymore. navigating complexity. I think even if you're not sick or have an illness or a problem, you got to level up and learn how to navigate uncertainty because that's the world we live in now. And if you've got the world we live in now, plus you're fighting an illness, you're not starting with like, you have to have a worldview that helps you navigate complexity. If we don't have something that helps us navigate complexity, then everything is extra complicated. There's a difference between complexity and complicated. We don't want to overcomplicate things that don't need to be complicated, but it is complex. So we need to learn how to navigate complexity. So the new model summary is start with the fear of death, not around it. Just go there and be like, all right, let me face this fear. Whatever it takes to face this fear. You have to face that. And when it comes up, you just have to keep facing that. I still face it, but I've gotten so much better because I've done so much work around facing death. And my worldview on death might be different than other people's. Like I don't have that fear of death anymore. You know, I could say, oh, well, I don't want to like go out being eaten by a shark and feeling all the pain, right? But like something about death, I understand that the consciousness doesn't just stop. I'm not atheistic in my mentality. I do believe that consciousness kind of returns back to the one. And I've had some very personal exalted experiences on my journey that were non-psychedelic induced. They were just very organically induced. That gave me a really, I had a near-death experience. Maybe I should talk about that with you sometime. I had a near-death experience, and that really provided such a gift into just softening my fear of death.
We should definitely talk about that at some stage because NDEs are really what help. You know, the research around NDEs is what helps reshape exactly what you're just talking about people's experiences about. And I had, you know, I watched my dad pass away, and the communication I had with him right as sort of his dying moments and what he was seeing and all the stuff that we get told in the stories was confirmed. And so I think we'll do another podcast on that, but it does definitely help move out of that fear of you die and then that's it. You know, if we knew that we continued to, even not to a certainty but to a different degree, it totally changes the narrative that we might just drop the meat suit and on we go. You know, there might be some advantages to that, you know. So yeah, I think we should definitely talk about that at some stage too.
You know, this is partially taboo because it can trigger certain people of particular faiths or whatever have you. You know, I am a very faithful person. And what I will say is having that experience, it does, like you said, it changes everything. And it is worth talking about. I think that we'll have to probably do the next one on that. And again, it's not something that really can be objectively measured. So I think we're realizing that there is this sacred constantly breaking through the mundane. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. People who don't experience it poo-poo it, or it's taboo, or then all of a sudden all of our objective science somehow feels invalidated. Of all of a sudden we realize we can't separate the observer from the observed, and scientific research now is like affected by the scientists. Like it really opens up a lot of questions, but that's where we're at, folks. We got to go there. We can't ignore this stuff.
No, and I think there's a shift in the collective conversation about this, like the telepathy tapes. They've got so much traction, and people are watching them about, you know, what non-verbal autistic people might go through and how they all meet on the hill. If no one's watched the telepathy tapes, watch it. It is crazy. It's like they've got their own internet going. I love that. So we know consciousness exists outside the body. It makes sense that it would probably continue when we drop the body, and we're starting to have more and more confirmation of this. We're able to test it more and more, and really science is catching up to what ancient wisdom and spirituality is for a long time, which is exciting for me. So I think,
exactly.
we should do a podcast on this. And I'm not asking people to jump on and believe stuff. It is very hard to believe in that stuff if you've had no experience of it. I'm lucky I grew up having lots of experiences of that. You've obviously had an experience of that, and that does shift the way that you look at things. So, but that having that worldview does make the process in some ways easier, right?
incredibly easier, but it's a paradigm shifting worldview, and it is something that most people need to either have an experience or have done a degree of inner work or have searched for knowledge, because it requires you to drop aspects of the old world view to be able to embody this difference. But there is a teacher, Emmanuel Swedenborg, and he is, oh my gosh, I forget what years he was around, but he is long deceased, and he was a scientist in his entire life. And then in like polymath, inventor, scientist, mathematician, all the things. And then late in life, he had a spiritual event, and he proceeded to become a spiritual master, so to speak, in his own right later in life, and has written countless incredible books on the afterlife. And I'm very good friends with people who run the Swedenborg Foundation. And what I'm going to do in the end, a little preview here, in the NDE presentation that we do, I'm going to include some of the philosophy from some of these masters who say the very similar thing, who've had very direct experiences with things in the afterlife. And there's a lot of conflation between what people are considering alien and what some people consider the spiritual hierarchies, actually, and how some of these sacred experiences are breaking into our everyday reality. Some people say, oh, sometimes the veil feels thinner, or you can feel different things. And I think that's really what's happening, is that we're becoming more aware, we're evolving, because the world isn't really going in a great direction. So we need some cleanup. We need a different worldview. We need people to do their own work, to rescind their own shadows, to kind of become more self-aware. And in that, a new myth can be born. And there have been people that have had these sacred experiences, and a lot of them have been persecuted for it, murdered for it when they start talking this way, because it's very threatening to the current system, the current paradigm, capitalism, everything as we know it. So, but again, this is where we're at. So why not just go into it? So
Amazing. Well, I think the key things I took away from that really was that lovely slide you had where, science really goes from the labs of chemistry, all that sort of stuff, to number one, which was,
facing the root cause of death.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're an awareness witnessing your diagnosis. I think that's such a profound thing, that when you can wrap your head around that you are not a diagnosis. We often say to people, you are not your disease. It's like, you are not kidney disease. It's not who you are. You're in a person in a body with a soul with a body experiencing kidney disease as part of your experience in life. And if you really sit from that point of view as the observer of all of that, how would that change things? And I think really sitting in those number one and doing the work, as you mentioned, is if we can work in that sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 and sort of have this meet in the middle, it very much changes the energy or the feeling behind being diagnosed with a chronic disease. And it does what chronic disease takes away, what you said back at the beginning, is how to master the unknown. Part of that is it's still unknown, but the known is almost the soul, and it's getting to re-know that and to reconnect with that. And that's, at the end of the day, the only thing we actually have any ability to go and work on and affect, in a sense. So
Yeah, you know what it really is? It really is a foundational program, because we've gotten so lost in the sauce that it's a foundational program to simply trust your journey.
Yeah, and isn't that the ultimate? It's that beautiful saying, and I think it's Gabby Bernstein that says it, the universe always has my back, even if it doesn't look like it. The universe is always working for me, not against me. And it's that, and that's taken me a long time to really work with that. Because I'm like, really? Because I call bullshit. Like, it doesn't feel like the universe has my back. And it's, and like you say, you can only generally see that stuff in hindsight. And then you're like, oh yeah, okay, maybe it did. Like, it's hard to do that projecting forward, as you mentioned before. It's easy to do it looking back. But
yeah, if I can just say that what I'm discussing is, it's an evolutionary model that requires to break the current worldview to a degree, to expand awareness and consciousness, to embody something new. that is a profound process. This isn't something that just, oh, you're okay, you totally get it. It requires daily attention, presence, working with it. It's a lifelong initiation, a lifelong process. So it's not something that you come into quickly because it's about expanding your consciousness. It's about becoming consciously aware of not just what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein or in the government. It's become consciously aware of what's going on within you maturely, really looking at yourself and getting to know thyself, being on the deathbed and not having any regrets that you don't know who you are. You don't know what happened. You just were caught up in what was going on out in the real world. So that's kind of what I'm pushing for. But it's not easy. It challenges the current paradigm. It challenges yourself, but it's an invitation. And once you accept the invitation, you just know you're on the journey. You understand, like, okay, I'm on my own hero's journey now. And it's not going to be easy, but I'm on it. And I can't fall back asleep now because I want to have this creative healing journey for myself.
Well, it's the red pill, right? Once you go on
Yeah.
it, it's taking the red pill. And once you know, you can't not know, unfortunately. Sometimes I'm like, why, oh, why did I just not take the blue pill, which is
I know.
that line from the Matrix. But, like, no, once you've done it and you start on it, the universe is like, okay, let's go.
It's the real path of growing up. That's what it is. This is real growing up, facing yourself, facing all the things you've done, working to evolve yourself and apologize and forgive and find your trust again. It to me is the only path. To me, because I've been on this path for so long, it's not that I devalue, again, it's not that I devalue the physical, okay? And it's not that I'm martyring myself, but because all of that is nuance. You have to know your own proclivities and background because you're right. Somebody could hop on the spiritual journey and then they've been, a product of heavy cult religion growing up or something, and they just want to completely martyr themselves and disassociate. That's not it either. It's kind of like the yin yang. That it is the intersection of duality where both embody a piece of the other to find more of what my friend Colin, his wife, who sadly passed away recently, would call homo balantia, balanced human being. Okay. So that is the balance. It's the vertical, it's the sacred and the mundane. That's where we live. We can't see the sacred. It's symbolic. It's our intuition. It's all of this magic that exists in the world. But when we live without it, and tech takes over and we've got no more sacred in our mundane, then we're robots. And that's not really where I want to be. So I'm trying to push for this other aspect of the sacred and the creative within diagnosis and the healing process, because the few people I've known who've accepted the invitation in their disease process of this inner work have come through to the other side, alive or not, in better holistic peace in their heart and soul than I've ever seen anyone else. So that's my hope for the future.
I agree. And it's funny, you've got the cross, right? No, I don't know if
Yeah.
you know what it is. I've got this, which is the Incan yin and yang symbol. Black snake, white snake,
Yeah.
same thing. It's the dark within the light and the light within the dark, the duality. Exactly what you just
Right.
talked about. That's what I've got on my wrist. So is
Awesome.
that interesting?
We are simpatico for sure.
See?
Well, thank you for letting me share that. Next time I think we'll have to do the NDEs and share some of these alternative worldviews that help people to really honestly relax. Don't give up into death, but relax into it being part of the process. And could you imagine actually saying, I'm going to commit to living my life as fully as possible and I'm never giving up, but I'm also kind of excited for the death experience. I'm pretty excited to see what comes after.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like you and I both had experiences growing up or in adulthood that have shaped that. And so it probably be useful for people to understand where they came from. I've had very profound experiences either during meditation as a child. I had a crazy childhood growing up with that sort of stuff, and it sounds like you have had that. So probably to talk to our own experiences, which has given shape to how we view reality, and then how that's played out with our chronic diseases. So then we can talk about, like you said, some of the science and some of the stuff that you've proclaimed from some of these teachers that you've had. I think we should do all of that. So I think that'll be great.
Oh, great.
Stephanie, as always, you're a joy and a wonder. Thank you so much for sharing that with our community. If you want to know more about what Stephanie does, I'll put in links below. You can actually book a consult with her by heading to www.kidneycoach.com and then going into mentoring, and you can book in and have a one-on-one mentoring session with Stephanie. If you want to work with someone that will actually help walk you through this and how to integrate this into your healing journey, be it kidney disease or any other disease, Stephanie is very well versed in how to do that. If you want to know more about what we do, like I say, head to the website, kidneycoach.com. You'll also find us on Instagram and Facebook under the same name. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. That way you'll get notified anytime we put up new content. Thank you for being part of our community. Stephanie, thanks again. We look forward to seeing you all next time. Bye.